Welcome to Tech Smarter. This is the show where we talk with innovators, operators, and investors that are actively engaged in shaping aging services. I'm your host, Abby Ritchie. I'm the tech guru here at the Smarter Service. And this episode is sponsored by Leading Age Arizona and brought to you by the Smarter Service. Now, if you are a senior living operator and you're grappling with the residents who have tech questions and their tech questions have questions, go ahead and reach out to us. We are here to help you professionalize this for your community. Now, without further ado, I would like to bring on my guests for today. We have with us Marc Middleton. And Marc, welcome to Tech Smarter.
Thanks, Abby. It's my honor. Always exciting to be able to hang out with a tech guru like yourself. So thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Marc, for people who are unfamiliar with you and what you do, could you please share with us how you came to be involved in aging services and connect with Growing Bolder?
I was for years a news and sports anchor in Orlando and Phoenix before that. And, long story short, they shared market research with me years ago, and I looked at it and it had the name and then it had the age. And if the age was over 55, there was nothing after that. And I said, wait a second, where's the rest of this survey? And they said, well, if they're over 55, we discontinue the interview. And I said, well, wait a minute. The average age of our viewer, as it is in every local news station in America, is 58 to 60 years old. You don't care about the opinion of your average viewer. And they said, well, of course we do, but our advertisers don't. And that really kind of set me into a deep demographic dive, if you will, for a year, consuming everything I could about, this impending age wave. And this is 20 years ago. And, not just the fact that it would be a whole lot of older people, and not just the fact that it would be a whole lot of older people with money, but it would be a whole lot of older people who were desiring to live in a way that no older demographic has in the history of humankind. And I just thought that that was where I wanted to kind of transition and leverage the skills that I had built in television as a storyteller, to try to change the narrative around the way people age. So that spawned Growing Bolder. We started with a radio show on an NPR station. We expanded to a television show on a single PBS station. And within 6 months, we were on 450 channels nationwide. And so from the beginning, Abby, and I think this kind of informs everything that we've ever done, we decided that the statement we were going to make about aging was going to be made through the examples of older adults themselves, who were ordinary adults, who were living, for lack of a better word, extraordinary lives. And not because they were doing amazing things, but because they were living with passion and joy, no matter what their challenges were. So, I always say we don't deny the reality of our mortality. We don't pretend that bad things happen as we age, but we have learned that it's possible for anybody of any age, in any condition, to learn how to extract joy from their life and, look at aging through a lens of opportunity and possibility instead of simply loss and limitation. So that's what we do. We just share stories of cool people doing cool stuff.
I love it. I love it. You do so much more than that. And I'd love to talk about that, specifically some of the things that you're doing with the Longevity Club and how you've been able to partner with Uber. And how did that come about? What was the light bulb moment for you there?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it is kind of my passion project right now. We did a pilot for the Growing Bolder Club here in Florida. We're in Central Florida with the Florida Assisted Living Association. And, it was just a new distribution channel, if you will, to older adults. And the way that I pitched it initially was the fact that it's all about mindset. It's really the one activity that every resident in any senior living community, whether they're in independent living or assisted living, can sit together and all get something out of, because it's about changing our mindset. And as we talked about that, we decided, well, let's go ahead and leverage what I think is the number one cultural trend in America today, and that's longevity. But I'm quick to offer a disclaimer, Abby. Every time I talk about Longevity Club, it's really not about how long you live. It's about how well you live. It's about health span. And, so as we talked about this, and we wanted to expand it nationally. Someone introduced me to some folks at Uber. And Uber said, we're not really sure how to address older adults. How do we communicate with older adults? What could you do to help us? And, I'm always quick to, to brag about what I think we can do. And I said, listen, give us a chance. I think we could turn Uber for older adults. We can make Uber represent almost the same thing that a driver's license does to a 16-year-old, freedom and autonomy. Because as we get older, we need to get around. One research project after another has shown that mobility, and not just the ability to walk inside our house, but mobility in getting outside of our house. And we all know about the importance of social connection and getting to our healthcare providers. All of these things are critically important. But losing the ability to drive, losing our driver's license is a bummer for most people. I would love to be able to afford to have a driver who drives me around all the time. I don't really care about driving. And I said, so let us do what we do. Let's tell editorial stories. We don't do advertising. I'm going to do marketing for Uber. I'm going to tell stories of actual older adults whose lives have been transformed by the service that they provide. And they said, let's go. So they decided they wanted to become the national sponsor of Longevity Club, which we are launching initially through senior living communities. But within 90 days, we're going to offer individual subscriptions for those who are aging in place. I always say, Abby, that, aging in place is something that research shows 7 or 8 out of every 10 people want to do. But aging in place is the kiss of death if you're not able to get out of your house, if you're not able to stay socially connected. It sounds great, but if you end up living alone, sitting on the couch, watching TV, bad things happen really, really fast. So we're going to make Longevity Club available to everybody as fast as we can.
So the piece of this that really intrigues me in working with older adults and helping them with technology is the education piece. Because when I am working with an older adult and teaching them how to schedule Uber, how to choose between this option or this option, you know what? I've noticed like this mental hurdle that has to be taught through. It's sort of like because they grew up calling a taxi, right? And so now this is a different way of getting a ride. They completely understand calling a taxi, calling for a taxi, calling for a yellow cab. They completely understand that because they grew up with it. But the notion of asking and requesting a ride through your phone and through an app, it can be somewhat of a mental hurdle. And I'm just wondering, within this partnership, is there an education piece that's provided?
It's really the foundational piece of all of it. When we first started working with Uber, they made it difficult for us because they said, we only want you to tell stories of older adults who use Uber as a benefit. Uber's got a division called Uber Health that basically provides rides as part of your Medicare Advantage insurance plan. If you have the right plan and if the rides qualify, they will pay for your ride to get you to the doctor, to get you to the therapist, to get you whatever. So find those people growing bolder and tell stories on them. The problem is we found a lot of older adults who use and love using Uber, but not a lot who really understood that it was a benefit of their insurance plan. So we said, you've got to do some more work just celebrating what Uber is. And for all, it, all of us who use Uber all the time, it's freaking incredible. I mean, you're on your phone no matter where you are, and within 3 minutes, you've got a car, you know who's coming, you know what the driver's license is. You can pay for it on your phone. So part of what we're doing are Uber 101 sessions and classes. One of the charter members, if you will, of Longevity Club, which is how we're launching with, just certain senior living communities, so we can get all of the wrinkles out of it. And I tell these charter members, this is designed to be as close to turnkey as it can be. We know how overworked you are, how understaffed you are. The last thing most senior living communities want is another program that they've got to take care of. This is designed to, it's plug and go. That said, charter member communities, we need feedback. We want to know what you want to know. I've been blown away by the enthusiasm and the encouragement that they all have that Uber's involved in this. I kind of spoke about it really sheepishly initially because we're not marketing anything. I'm not selling anything, and I know senior living communities are very concerned about that. Leave our residents alone. And they want to know what's Uber doing. I said, Uber just wants to support this initiative. They want to help older adults learn how to get out. So one of the communities, a charter member, is Senior Resource Group. They've got 21 communities across America, and we're doing Uber 101 sessions with all 21 communities. Uber has a new senior mode, a safe mode. They've got a family mode. They're working really, really hard. They just hired a new woman who's phenomenal, who's in charge of their senior program, for lack of a better word. And I've just been blown away by their true care for trying to figure this out and try to help people. So some of these senior living communities are going to, and I thought this was brilliant. As we're talking to them, they said, we just have to figure out a way how to get these seniors, residents, to use Uber. And just giving them a voucher for a free ride isn't going to be good enough, because what do you do with it? So all of these communities now are they know the restaurants that are near their senior living community where their residents like to go. So they're going to have a special day where all of their residents can get an Uber ride to their choice of 2 or 3 restaurants within 2 or 3 miles, and the concierge will handle this for them so that they don't have to do it on their own phone. And they can now just have that experience of saying, well, can I go to lunch? Can I go to, Susie's Cafe? Sure. Your ride will be here in 3 minutes, and it'll be this, and it'll look like that. It'll be this color, and here's a license plate, and they'll pick you up when you're done. And so Uber understands it, and I think you understand, and anybody that uses Uber understands that once you use it, they've made it so easy and so simple. But yes, they have to. They're changing the app. They're creating different versions of the app, and we are helping them produce Uber 101 sessions so that older adults can find a way into using the app in a way that supports them, whether it's getting Uber Eats delivered to them, or getting a ride to their yoga class, or getting a ride to their therapist, getting their prescription medication delivered to them. It does all of that. And, we just need, to share with people how easy it is.
Yeah, I do think that there's a huge education piece. It's beautiful that the concierge or the community is going to order up rides for people to places that they're already familiar with and comfortable with. But for someone who's maybe didn't grow up with a smartphone in their hand, and just navigating that app with comfort and confidence, what would you say in an educational piece for an older adult in that situation?
Well, that's one of the versions they have, is this family mode where, the adult child can kind of sign up for their adult parent. And, the adult child can order the ride. They can monitor the ride. They can see when they were picked up. They can see when they were dropped off. But, it's just a matter of getting people. Obviously, you have to have someone that's using a smartphone. That's kind of the first hurdle. But as you know, Abby, every year the ability of older adults to leverage technology is increasing. The number of older adults that use smartphones is increasing, and so it's incumbent upon Uber to make it really, really simple for people to log on and find what they want and get the service that they need. But they're doing that. It's coming.
What I've found with the Smarter service and providing these type of educational experiences to older adults is it's never a one and done. It's not a plug and play. It is about a continuous educational piece, reinforcing concepts and familiarity and comfort and repetition, so that someone gets this notion, and they get this technology sort of ingrained in them, that they're doing it so frequently that it just feels so turnkey. And that might be the one piece in regards to Uber that has been a big challenge in my experience. But what would you say is some of the aha moments when you've seen an older adult access the app and be able to schedule a ride?
Well, first of all, the thing that we have found from the beginning with Growing Bolder, and one of our, we call it the someone like me effect, and I say this all the time. You can quote statistics, you can share research, and I love to do all of that. But the only thing that really truly transforms someone's mindset about something is when they can see themselves in others, when they can see someone like them doing something they didn't think they could do or never thought about doing. That's when you've got their attention. That's when transformation occurs. So, that's really the key for this. And I think all technology is, telling the story about how to use it, the ease of use through other older adults that are doing it. Because, if you tell them, Abby, even being the tech guru, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, yeah, that's just Abby, a tech guru, telling me. But if it's an 85-year-old lady whose life is just phenomenal because she can easily do this, then it's game on. So, I think that's the key to everything in terms of getting older adults to change their mindset, whether it's technology or it's a piece of exercise equipment or it's saying yes to a new class, is showing them an example of someone like that who is actually doing it, and that's really kind of one of the foundational reasons why I wanted to do Longevity Club. I've become fascinated with the idea that senior living communities at their very best can become a version of a micro blue zone, to not use a word that, blue zones are not involved in this at all. I could move to Okinawa or Icaria tomorrow, and it is not going to change how I age in any single way. Because how you age is not about geography and it's not about biology as much as it is about culture. And senior living communities have the ability, unlike almost any other community, to provide all of the keys to happy, healthy, active aging. And so, I think that senior living communities should really, really lean in to their opportunity and their ability to become, for lack of a better word, again, micro blue zones and help people age in a way that they enjoy it.
What would you say are some of the biggest objections or challenges that you've heard from senior living communities in regards to just revising their approach and being more open-minded towards the way that their community can impact the longevity of the residents?
It's a great question. The thing that I say now all the time is mindset. Mindset is the missing piece from what I can see in senior living communities. I ran into you at the ICAA convention this past year. The expo gets bigger every year. There's fitness companies, there's brain health companies, all of this cool stuff. And it's great stuff. But if you can't convince an older adult to use it, if you can't change their mindset about what can happen if you do use it, it's not going to work. And it's not just getting them to do it, it's getting them to believe that doing it will have a positive impact. What our mind believes, our body embraces, our psychology drives our physiology. So that's the biggest thing is they've got to work on mindset. And when I talk to senior living communities about that, one of the things I hear all the time is, who needs this maybe more than many of our residents are our staff. Our staff has got to fully embrace all of these concepts so that we can share it ourselves. So, the good news is, Abby, and you know this better than I mean, you've been involved in that industry a lot longer and more deeply and successfully than I ever have. But there has been a pretty rapid change in the decision makers in senior living since the pandemic. There are a lot of people from healthcare, from hospitality, from different industries that are coming into it. A lot of the old school senior living people are gone and are being replaced with people who get it, who've got a great idea. And at the risk of rambling, and I apologize, I know your last question asked for an example. Here's a good one. It has nothing to do with Longevity Club, but it underscores what the technology can do. We did a story when I worked for news here in Orlando on a woman when she turned 100 years old. Her name was Ruth, and the mayor came out. We had a party, and she was amazing, glib, had a lot of fun. 9 years later, we're sitting in the Growing Boulder office, and I'm wondering whatever happened to Ruth. Is she still alive? So we ran her down and found her living on the top floor of an assisted living home in downtown Orlando. They knew who we were. They let us in. They let us into a room, and they told us, the staff told us, she hadn't had a visitor in over 3 years. She'd outlived everybody, and she just stayed in her room. She slept all day long. She wasn't in a wheelchair watching TV with 40 other people. We woke her up. And because we knew who she was, because we did stories on her, we could talk to her about her life, which is something that the staff couldn't do. They had no idea. We knew that she was the first female legislator in New Hampshire, that she taught diction to Hollywood starlets, that she was married to a New York Yankee, that she went to Berlin in 1936 and met Hitler. And as we started to talk to her, she came alive. And one day I was there, and I just thought of this on the fly, and I pointed to the little camera on the top of my laptop, and I said, Ruth, this is a camera. And she was a former teacher. And I said, do you have anything you want to share with anybody? Because if you do, I'll put it online. And she lit up. And so we made her Ruth 1898, the year of her birth. We made her the oldest blogger in America. And we shared for the next year, a 109-year-old talking about everything from Britney Spears to, The Secret to Life. And we shared it. And we had comments worldwide. It brought her back to life. I don't know that we helped her live longer, but I promise you the quality of life that she had, because she now was using a piece of technology to still have a voice. And that to me may be the highest and most noble use of all of this technology, is the ability to give older adults a voice, the ability to give older adults to connect with one another.
I love that. And Marc, I do not think you're rambling on. It is an honor to have you here, to hear from your experience. You're in the trenches. I love hearing these stories and how they all interconnect so that we can serve older adults at a higher level. So I absolutely love that. I am not thinking you're rambling by any means, or you'd see me go, and I try to be interrupting you, but I'm not doing that at all. I just fully value what you're bringing to the table. In addition to giving people purpose through their ability to share their experience, I do really think it also comes back to their ability to have that type of mobility that something like Uber is going to allow an older adult to have, so that when they want to get outside their community, that they can get outside their community. Have you found that as well?
Absolutely. One of the initiatives that we're doing with the senior living community as they roll out Longevity Club is, a Say Yes campaign. Obviously you can't say yes to everything, but, I've come to believe, and everything I know about aging, I've learned from, the nonagenarians and centenarians we've done stories on, is that you have to say yes to life. You have to lean in. Saying yes is the breath of life. So this senior living community is doing a Say Yes campaign where, and Uber's going to be involved, where, on a Friday, let's say yes to, taking a trip to the local art museum, and Uber's going to pick them up and take them. And, another subtle kind of a low friction way to get an Uber ride and do it together so that they have fun. But, it's just encouraging older adults to lean into life, to say yes, and to take chances. If not now, when? There's dignity in risk, and we have to help older adults, get out of this bubble wrapped kind of environment that many of them live in, and let's get out and live. I mean, why not?
I love that. I love that. I wanted to ask you about autonomous driving. How do you feel about that? How do you explain it? And how are you preparing members of your longevity club for it?
I didn't hear what you said.
Autonomous driving.
Oh, That hasn't come up yet. I mean, I love the conversation. We will get there. That'll be a whole nother fear factor, when that comes around. But I think, what we have learned from the beginning, I think the strategy and the technique will be the same. Find an older adult who uses it or who is willing to try, and do a story on them and share it in that way. And then you can start, explaining it more and answering their questions and doing, the Q&A. The first thing that we've learned about everything when it comes to motivating older adults to changing their mindset is just to show them, tell them a story, tell them an editorial story. Don't make it an advertisement. Tell them a story that involves someone like them doing something that they didn't think they could do. And it's the challenge is that I believe that the someone like me effect is literal. If you want to get a 92-year-old African-American woman to do this, Lord help you find another 92-year-old African-American woman doing it. Because then it's game on. So, that's what we try to do. We try to curate stories to the extent that we can that, involve every age, every demographic, every challenge, and especially, every thing that they've overcome. When we first started doing stories on older adults, we were just, like a moth to the flame, attracted to the older adult that had just done something incredible. But, we learned very quickly that that's not really the story. The story is what they had to overcome to do that. And so now anytime we interview anybody, it's, oh yeah, well, by the way, what did you have to overcome? That motivates people. Whatever they overcome, there's thousands of people out there dealing with the same issue, the same fear. So, that's the key to everything. And I know it's simple, and you're the tech guru, and I certainly am not that. But I think that the strategy of finding older adults who are doing the things that other older adults are afraid to do or don't think they can do is the way to change their mind.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I want to ask you now a slightly off-topic question. When it comes to your phone and the apps that you use, what are some apps that you are using besides Uber that you rely on every single day?
Where's my phone? You know what? It's a lot of it are apps for work. We use Teams. We use Dropbox. I text all the time with family and friends and work colleagues. So I don't really use a lot of other apps. I've got folders for travel, and I've got obviously Uber in there, and all of the airlines and all of the hotels. I've got. I wish I had my phone with me. I could remember.
Yeah, where is your phone right now? Mine's right here in front of me. It's okay, Mark. I'm just giving you a hard time. Mark, for people who want to get in touch with you, find out more about some of the cool things that you're doing, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, I appreciate that. My email address is mmiddleton@growingbolder.com. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, which would be great, or Facebook. Either one of those are good. We've got a podcast, the Growing Bolder podcast, and Abby Turnaround is Fair Play. You have got to be on my podcast if you will.
I'd love to.
And let's do that soon. And you can, in fact, one of the things that we're doing with Longevity Club is Longevity Club. The main piece of Longevity Club is a 30-minute show every single month that has the latest research. It's got affirmations and visualizations. It's got stories of other older adults doing cool stuff, and it's got a guest expert or two talking about stuff, and having you come on and talk about adopting technology and answering some of the questions that you asked me that I did not answer well. I will ask you, and you can nail it, and that'll be helpful to us, and I'd greatly appreciate it.
That would be an absolute honor. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Leading Age Arizona for sponsoring this episode. And if anyone has any questions or comments that you'd like to submit, please go ahead and put them in the chat or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. And we will see you all right back here next week for another episode of Tech Smarter. Bye.